It was the summer after high school graduation when my friend Jacob convinced me and two others to spend a weekend at his family's remote cabin in northern Minnesota. The cabin hadn't been used in years, but his dad had owned it since the early 90s and insisted it was good as new. We thought it would be a perfect break before everyone split off to college or work. A weekend of bonfires, beers, and zero cell service sounded like a solid idea. Jacob drove us out on a Friday afternoon. Tyler and Shane packed in the back, blasting music and joking around like we always did. The last half hour of the drive was all gravel roads and towering trees. We finally arrived as the sun was setting. The golden light cutting through the woods. At first glance, the cabin looked fine. Weathered, sure, but standing solid. There was a dusty old porch, a single light over the door that flickered on and off, and a woodshed in the back. Inside, the place smelled like dust and cedar. Mice had chewed through some pantry boxes, but otherwise it was intact. We cleaned up, cracked open a few beers, and started a fire outside as the night settled in. The woods around us got darker than I expected, pitch black, with only our fire giving off any light. I was used to the suburbs, where there's always some glow. Out here, the dark felt heavier. Around 11 p.m. Jacob remembered a shortcut trail his uncle used to take to get to the lake. He pointed it out just past the tree line behind the shed. Shane joked we should take a midnight hike. I laughed, thinking he was bluffing. He wasn't. Shane grabbed a flashlight, dared the rest of us, and we followed like idiots. It was warm and muggy, the kind of summer night that made the forest smell like rotting leaves and wet bark. The shortcut was barely a trail, more like a deer path. We pushed through brush, ducked under branches, and tried to follow Jacob's vague memory. Out of its direction. Then we saw the house, not the cabin we'd come from. This was something different. Hidden deep in the woods down a slope, half covered by vines and trees. It looked abandoned, roof sagging, shutters hanging loose. One window was broken. It had no lights, no welcome mat, no sign that it belonged to anyone. Tyler wanted to check it out. I said no. Something felt wrong. But Shane was already halfway to the porch with the flashlight. I followed reluctantly, the beam of light bobbing over peeling paint and mossy wood. The front door was closed, but not locked. Shane pushed. It opened with a loud creak. The inside smelled like mold and rot. Dust floated in the air. Everything inside was old real, like 70s furniture, warped floorboards, a rusted metal fan hanging from the ceiling. There were photos on the wall, families, kids, smiling faces, all in black and white. Then we heard it, a dragging sound, upstairs. Jacob froze. Tyler whispered, "What the hell was that?" Shane muttered, "Animal?" I shook my head. That was footsteps. We stood in silence, flashlight beam trembling slightly. Then it happened again, closer this time. Not fast, but deliberate. Something was walking upstairs. We bolted. We didn't even close the door. We just ran, tripping through brush and low branches, barely able to breathe. I scraped my knee on a rock. Jacob lost his shoe. Shane dropped the flashlight, but none of us stopped. Back at the cabin, we slammed the door shut, locked it, pulled all the blinds. Tyler kept pacing. Shane was pale. Nobody spoke for a few minutes. Eventually, Jacob whispered, "What was that house?" I said, "It's not on any map. I looked before we came." That night, we barely slept. Every creak of the cabin made us flinch. Tyler sat with a kitchen knife in his hand until dawn. The next day, we packed up early. On the way out, Jacob asked his dad about the shortcut trail. His dad went quiet for a moment and said, "You boys didn't go too far down it, did you?" We told him about the house. His face changed. He didn't laugh. He just said, that place was condemned after a murder-suicide. Back in '88, they never tore it down. Every summer, my cousin Emma and I used to spend a week at my grandparents' lake house in Michigan. It was quiet, old, and remote. No TV, no internet, and barely any neighbors. We were both teenagers when this happened, and we hadn't seen each other in a while. So we were excited for a week of catching up and swimming. That summer felt off from the start. The first night, while unpacking, I noticed claw-like scratches on the back door. Long, uneven marks down the wood. I pointed it out to my grandpa. He brushed it off. Raccoons, he said. Big ones this year. But raccoons don't leave handprint-sized marks halfway up a door. The second day, we went swimming as usual. The water was murky from a recent storm, but we stayed close to shore. After lunch, Emma went back down to the dock. I followed a few minutes later and found her just standing there, frozen, staring at the lake. What's wrong? There was someone out there, she said quietly. In the boat? I looked out. The old wooden rowboat you never used anymore was drifting about 20 feet from shore. Empty. It was there. She insisted. Sitting, just watching. That night, neither of us could sleep. We kept checking the windows. Around 2 a.m., we both heard it, a splash. Then another. Then the sound of oars gently paddling through water. I pulled the curtain slightly. The boat was closer now, near the edge of the dock. I couldn't see anyone in it, but something about it felt ... wrong. The water was still except for that boat. We closed the curtains and didn't look again. The next day, my grandparents left to get groceries in town. Emma and I stayed behind. It was hot. Too hot to stay inside. She wanted to go out on the water, but I wasn't feeling it. That rowboat freaked me out. We argued. She went alone. I watched her paddle out, thinking she was just trying to prove a point. But once she got about 50 feet from the dock, I saw her stop. She sat still in the boat, facing the far end of the lake. I shouted, Emma? No response. Then she stood up, turned toward the forest on the far side of the lake. And she screamed. It wasn't a scream of pain. It was a scream of terror. I bolted toward the dock. She dropped the oars and backed into the corner of the boat, pointing toward the trees. It's there, it's there. I couldn't see anything, but I knew she wasn't making it up. I jumped into the old canoe and paddled out. When I reached her, she was shaking, eyes locked on the forest. He was standing there, she said, just watching. We both looked. Still nothing. But as we turned the boat around, I noticed something on the shore across from our dock. Wet. Footprints. Human, barefoot, leading up into the woods. We told our grandparents. They didn't believe us. My grandpa grumbled about teen imagination. But I saw his face when he checked the rowboat that evening. He saw the same thing I did. Wet smears, fingerprints, one handprint on the bow. The next night, the screaming started again. Not Emma's. From the lake, a woman's voice, distant and ragged, screaming over and over. It echoed off the trees and water, impossible to locate. We shut all the windows and turned off the lights. My grandma clutched her rosary. After that, none of us went back to the lake. Not even at daytime. When you grow up in a small town, summer nights offer few options. Fast food runs, gas station parking lot hangs, and the occasional ghost story to keep things interesting. But during the summer before senior year, something happened at our high school that wasn't just a story. It started with a game of hide and seek. We weren't little kids. We were bored teenagers. But we still played sometimes, especially in places we weren't supposed to be. That night, someone suggested the school. Specifically, the football field. It was after 11 p.m., hot and sticky. The field was technically closed at night, but the chain link fence had a gap behind the equipment shed. We squeezed through, flashlights off, trying not to attract attention. Our group was 5. Me, Megan, Javier, Logan, and Jamie. The rules were simple. 1 seeker, 4 hiders. Stay within the field perimeter. No going inside the school. I volunteered to seek first. I counted to 60 near the goalpost while the others scattered into the darkness. Crickets chirped loudly. A warm breeze rustled the flags on the scoreboard. When I finished counting, I walked toward the bleachers, a natural hiding spot. My flashlight was still off. I crouched and peeked underneath the metal slats. That's when I heard whispering. Faint. Too soft to make out. But it wasn't one voice. It was several. Fast, urgent. Gotcha, I thought. Assuming someone had hidden under there and was trying not to laugh, I knelt and crawled a few feet in, expecting to see someone's legs or shoes. Instead, I saw nothing. No one. The whispering continued, then stopped. I stood up, backed away, and turned on the flashlight. Nothing under the bleachers. Nothing nearby. Creeped out, I went to look elsewhere. I eventually found Megan behind the announcer's booth. Ben, Logan, and Jamie near the scoreboard. Javier didn't answer when we called. We found him 20 minutes later. He was under the bleachers, standing, still, facing the support beams. When we called his name, he didn't react, just stood there, stiff as a statue. We had to physically shake him. He blinked, looked at us, and whispered, "They're still down there." We asked what he meant. He couldn't explain. He just kept repeating, "They're down there." That night, we all went home freaked out. The next day, Javier didn't show up to our group chat. Megan said he wasn't answering her texts. Logan said he tried calling twice. No answer. I went to his house. His mom said he hadn't come home the night before. They found him 2 days later at school inside the equipment shed. His hands were covered in dirt. His fingernails torn. He'd been digging under the bleachers. After the police took him away, the rest of us met up again. None of us wanted to talk about it, but we couldn't help it. Jamie finally said what we were all thinking. What if he heard something? We went back one last time, got it was just past midnight. Same gap in the fence. Same field. Same rusted bleachers. We stood silently, watching, waiting. Then we heard it whispers clearer this time. Almost like chanting. They came from under the bleachers. Again, I turned my flashlight on and saw shadows moving under there, but there was no one physically there. The shadows didn't match anything above ground. They twitched, danced, and then vanished when the light hit them. We ran, and this time we didn't come back. Javier never returned to school. His parents moved him to a facility 3 towns over. Last we heard, he still won't talk. Except at night, they say he whispers.